All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live.
FTMB is back.
FTMB and Matt, we are gaining quite the following. Did you know this?
No,
Have you heard this one? Let me know if you heard this one. We got a few new subscribers, a few new listeners. Baby. So big shout out to all of you warriors out there who are picking up on us, like digging the music, spread the love, spread the word, spread the beer, spread the friendship, spread whatever you want to spread. It's up to you.
Slay the haters.
Slay the warriors. Haters. Yeah. So, take no prisoners.
0 prisoners.
Yes.
Speaking of prisoners.
Okay, I like this.
You can't drink beer in prison, but I am right now.
Wait, Matt, you're in prison?
Yeah, I just snuck out just for this podcast.
I'm glad that you could accomplish that. It's an important feat.
It is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I was thinking when I got in prison, how can I get out to do this podcast? And that's what drove me. And now I'm here today.
Cool. Well, what beer did you choose to drink on your way at a Huskow?
Yeah, so this one really caught my eye, the can art. It's a robot pouring beer out of his chest. And I thought, you don't see that every day.
No, not at all.
And
I've never seen that ever.
Yeah, actually me neither, which is, unique in that sense. And the beer, it's appropriate because the beer name is Save the Robots.
Oh, by who? By whom?
By Radiant Pig. Isn't that a funny name? Funny name.
I'm fucking slapping my knees.
It's an East Coast
Matt,
IPA.
You're my Radiant Pig.
That's the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me.
You're welcome. We are the number one friendship podcast too, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, well, when we kind of break it down, what do we talk about? Friendship, beer, music.
Yeah.
Really in that order.
Yeah.
This is primarily a friendship podcast.
Okay, well, friends, go ahead. And how is your beer?
It's really good. It's fresh. It's hoppy. It's juicy. 7% alcohol, so it has a little bit of heft to it, but not too much. It's drinkable, very drinkable.
Okay.
And quite enjoyable. A little bit of tropical citrus kick at the end. It's quite nice.
I've never even heard of this brewery. Is this like a New York City one?
Yeah. I think it's a local. I don't see actually the
maybe even just a Brooklyn.
Specifically from what borough they're from. It's New York somewhere. But yeah, Radiant Pig, established 2012.
Interesting. Check it out, folks, if you can.
Check it out. After that rave review, you're gonna want.
You could hear the passion in his voice about this pig.
Here, pig.
You should just sell that to them. We'll make you a commercial, and we got just the thing.
Look, I know you guys are looking into TV commercials. Small microbrew operation. I have great ideas. Yeah, speaking of great ideas, Morbid Stuff, an album by PUP, was a great idea.
It was. You skipped over my beer, though. Are we getting into the music here?
Oh, you got one too?
Jeez, you're not acting like much of a friend here right now, and I'm almost about to take back what I said earlier about you being my pig, all right?
Oh, man. Do we need to change the name of the podcast?
Do we need to start over here?
Pigs talking beer?
Yeah,
with music?
Pigs talking pig talk.
That's it. That's pretty good. All right, we'll consider it.
Okay. Next, keep an eye out for pig talk.
Well, actually, just assume we've changed it to pig talk.
By the time you're hearing this.
Talk. By the time you're hearing. For sure.
All right. Well.
All right. What you got, pig?
Well, I was in Cincinnati this weekend visiting some old friends of mine, and I picked up some a very popular Cincinnati-made beer from the ever popular and ever expanding brewery Rheingeist. I got their pale ale named Mosaic, and it's quite a nice pale ale. Definitely has some strong tropical notes in there with a little bit of like a grapefruit tang, I would say, slightly. Great smell, very eminently drinkable. I found it to be a very refreshing, nice like summer beer. Sit out on the porch with the fire and the friends, and it won't blow any minds, but it is an incredibly tasty beer if you can get it. And I think like Rheingeist is expanded, like you can find it almost anywhere in Ohio now. I don't know, maybe even in the surrounding states, but they're getting pretty big now.
I think I've seen Truth a few times out here.
Mm-hmm. Truth is like probably their most famous or most popular.
It's their hallmark.
Yeah.
But that Mosaic sounds delightful.
It is quite good. So yeah, if you're getting a little tired of the Truth, maybe you want something a little more palatable than the Truth. Go with the Mosaic. Bury your head.
Speaking
find
of
your
mosaics,
own truth. Yeah. What's up
you could call the album Morbid Stuff by PUP a bit of a mosaic of music, if you will.
You could call it that, but it's a slight stretch, but I'll allow it. I'll give you the pass because you're my partner and my friend and my pig. And my pig.
And my pig. Well, anyways. That's what we're talking about today.
PUP's Morbid Stuff.
It's a great album.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely grew on me the more I listened to it.
I would say the same. I think that my first listen, I was a little like not overwhelmed. I was whelmed. Like it was very like, all right, this is what I thought it would be. Like on more listens, it definitely like started being like, oh, like okay, this is how it's different. Kind of like similar to Jeff Rosenstock's Post. At first I was like not a huge fan, but like eventually I like came around to like, okay, I see what's going on here and why this is different and why it's worth listening to still. Yeah,
it got catchier somehow on multiple listens.
This is probably their catchiest like album, and I would say on the pop punk spectrum they shift more towards the poppy end with this cut.
I would say that is one of the biggest themes throughout my notes of this album, for sure.
And I guess in the grand scheme of things in general, I've noticed a lot of pop punk bands sort of do this. I'm thinking of like Joyce Manor in particular now. But like as they get deeper and like more and more albums under their belts, they kind of tend to drift more and more towards the like the lighter side of things and the punk rock side of things. And I don't know why this happens, but it just seems like a general trend.
Yeah. I mean, if to have this brief meta discussion, it's like, where do you go? If you've done something well in one genre, where do you go?
Yeah.
You keep doing the same thing, that gets kind of tired and boring, or do you go towards one end of the spectrum? I think it's just rarer and more difficult, or maybe it's not more difficult. It just seems like a simple, easy thing to do, to go more punk, and it seems bigger and more grand, and more challenging to go more pop. Does that make sense?
I thought you were actually going to say the opposite, but I mean, I can get on board with that.
Well, like in my mind, to be more punk would be to simplify things even more.
Yeah, or like just like, ratchet up the aggression or something.
Yeah, which if you ratchet up the aggression from that angle, I can see why that would be more challenging and difficult. But just to like simplify things more, just like, okay, we went from pop punk to just only like power chord simple stuff, and then don't think many bands do that because the audience might perceive that as like, oh, this is just a simple, like, you're not even trying anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a fear of that reception. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's kind of a hard balance. Like you're saying, you might alienate fans one way or the other.
Yeah,
and I guess they're not really a pop punk band, but I think of Me Without You, and their first album is like so hardcore aggressive, and like each one after that kind of tones it down a bit. And I always thought like, damn, I loved that, how hardcore that first one was, but it's like you can't. It's like, how do you get like more intense than that, you know? Or like,
right.
Especially like his vocals are just so screamy. But like when you open up your range to be able to sing a bit and stuff, it's like, yeah, not every album is just you screaming at the top of your lungs.
Yeah.
And I think maybe in the pop end of the spectrum, you have more flexibility, whereas punk may be a bit more rigid if you're trying to experiment with your sound more.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating to think about.
Yeah. But that is an interesting meta conversation. Maybe we can cover that in another podcast, but we're here to review this album. And I think, it's like we were saying, I think it's their catchiest and poppiest and most like kind of earwormiest. And what was...
I would say it was also very cohesive lyrically. Like, it's just similar trend throughout each song, hitting on the same themes pretty consistently.
He seems like very bitter, like he ratcheted up like the bitterness in this one. Like he's just like so, seems like so over it, like with everything in his lyrics this time around.
Yeah, he just went all in with the kind of like darkness and
but like with a poppier background.
Oh yeah, of course, and that's another thing that I noticed came up consistently in my notes is the underlying music is very what you would call upbeat and light pop punk and poppy.
And I think the song that exemplifies this the most is, I think it was their first single, maybe, or at least the first single with a music video to come out, and that was the third track, Free at Last. And this kind of exemplifies not only like what this album is trying to do, but kind of just PUP as a band in general, where they're so like entwined with their fans, and they seem like such great guys, and like they put on great live shows. And like this music video, if you haven't seen it, you should go check it out. It's like they like released the chords and the lyrics for this song, and they're like, all right, you play this how you think it should be played, and they kind of stitched them all together, and then like they played it how they play it, you know, how PUP would play it. And it's just it's like such a cool concept. I've never seen anything like that before, and this is like definitely one of my favorite PUP songs of all time now.
That's a really cool concept. Yeah, and they've done some other cool stuff too.
Their music videos are always so cool.
Yeah,
they do a good job.
Yep. This is also, you know, just kind of hitting on like the wider art spectrum. I love the album art for this one.
Oh yeah, let me take a look at it here.
It's
like with musical chairs.
Yeah, musical chairs with like people holding knives.
Yeah.
And it ties in perfectly with the album name, which ties into like the
Morbid
lyrics. Everything is really perfect.
Yeah, it's like tight. Like I love it when everything about an album sort of like enhances everything else about it. It's all very tied together, like with a nice package that's aesthetically pleasing and appropriate for the content.
Yep, agreed. Speaking of Morbid Stuff,
that's a great opener.
First title. It is a great opener. It's just like, okay, no bullshit. We're gonna get right into it.
Everything that makes PUP, like great hooks or catchy hook, shouted group vocals, emotional lyrics, kind of bitterness. It really exemplifies them as being able to hold their own with like the pop punk greats of all time, I'd say.
Yeah, this is a very dynamic song too. It shifts, it changes. But yeah, it's just a classic pop punk banger overall.
Yeah, and this is kind of when I'll get to it later. It's kind of a weird segue, but yeah. So great opener, and then the second track, "Kids." Is this their only song that has like a spoken word in it? Like the intro is unique for PUP because it's sort of like a fast up tempo spoken word interlude at the very beginning.
Oh right, yeah. Now that you mention it, I can't think of anything else.
Yeah,
off the top of my head.
And yeah, it's fun. It's different, and it kind of mixes things up. It's like, because I was saying earlier, yeah, like I wasn't sure if this is just this is just more PUP. I don't know like what makes this album stand out. And this is the kind of stuff where they they interject something new they've never done before. And they got that nice spoken word, some fun doodly guitar bits and chunky drums. It's a good song.
There's almost like a surfer guitar riff in there. And just like a nice little guitar solo, but it's a really interesting sound on that guitar. It sounds like an organ. I think it's a guitar with an effect on it. But it's pretty cool. Yeah, actually, and this song reminded me of something I was thinking of, and let me know if you agree. I would say this is a very Weezer type album. I feel like
I can see that.
They sound a lot like Weezer, I think, especially in some songs and in certain places.
Yeah, just kind of the Weezer guitar tone is very unique, and kind of upfront and powerful. And yeah, the guitars in this, while not the same tone, sort of evoke a similar emotion or feeling.
And like we were saying earlier, it is oriented more towards that pop end of the spectrum, which Weezer kind of consistently hits. So I thought that was an interesting comparison.
Yeah,
I never kind of thought of PUP as Weezer type band. Yeah, but this album there's a lot of similarities. I think.
And that makes me think of like Jeff Rosenstock, and sometimes some of his songs just sound like a Weezer song with like Jeff singing, And it's not unheard of for these bands. They definitely have. Like, I would definitely say their influences come from Weezer for a lot of these more modern pop punk style bands.
Yeah, Weezer was huge.
Weezer still is huge. I still like some of their stuff that they put out.
It wasn't a diss to Weezer.
Yeah, we love you, Weezer. Rivers,
Weezer, come on the podcast.
Come on, Rivers. Come on down.
Can we name any other band members?
Matt Sharp.
Yeah, you're right.
Because there's all those YouTube videos that are like, "Say It Ain't So," but only Matt Sharp singing, and it's like really bad.
Matt Sharp, come on the podcast.
Yeah, just sing us some sweater song.
Just sing sweater song for us. That's all we want.
That's all we ask. Just a little favor. But yeah, so beyond Weezer.
Speaking of Matt Sharp, the third song is called "Free at Last," and
that's what we were just talking about.
Came on the podcast, he'd be free at last.
Free at last. Okay.
And you talked about the cool kind of thing they did with their fans already for this one.
Yeah, and
do you feel like that had an impact on how you
definitely, because like I was saying, it just exemplifies kind of like the community, the pop punk community that's so strong. If you ever go to like live shows and you see a Jeff Rosenstock or a PUP, there's like a palpable feeling of everybody's there having a good time. It's very intimate, usually smaller, medium-sized venues. And you don't feel that a ton with many genres or styles of music or bands, but the community aspect of of PUP is so special, and this sort of is just a celebration of that. And I love it, and it's kind of cool. They have like other bands like also just throw their hat in the ring. It's not just random fans. It's like other bands in the same genre like who are also fans of PUP, and it's just cool to see everybody being excellent to each other.
It is cool. Mm-hmm. It is a nice, wonderful community in that way. It's not too big where you get it. It feels like a community. It's small enough that it feels like a community, but also feels welcoming. It's not too small that you have to be in a certain group, or it's not uppity, because it's too small. It's the right size, and just in general, everyone's extremely pleasant.
Yeah, very pleasant people, good folks. I would highly recommend, if you get the chance to see PUP, you should take that opportunity. Both me and Matt have seen them, although in different venues at different times, and we both had great times.
Yes, they're very enjoyable live. They're just really great musicians.
Mm-hmm. I think they did it at my show, but they were like, or maybe I'm confusing them with. No, I don't think I'm confusing them with White Reaper. But they're like, we don't play encores. Like, we're just gonna like go as hard as we can and give you like what you guys want now. And I liked that. Like, it's just always feels sort of corny to me that everybody like they like go off stage and everybody cheers and they like come back out and stuff. And I just like, don't interrupt the flow. Like, I just want you to just go straight through and keep the energy levels high.
Why is that still a thing?
It must just be tradition at this point, but people have lost where that came from. It's a
weird thing where, it's to the best of my knowledge, it felt like a novel thing probably the first time someone did it. It's like, oh, they came back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exciting.
It's like they were actually done with their set, but they like people needed more. But now it's just sort of going through the motions.
Yeah, and it transitioned immediately into, oh no, this is tradition, we have to do it.
Yeah.
And was there ever a phase where people like rejected the idea of it? I don't know.
Rejected the idea of doing
an encore. I mean,
PUP does it.
Plenty of bands do it, but just in, like as a whole, as like a.
I don't know. I see it almost at every show I go to.
I know. Yeah, that's why it's funny. Weird. Anyways.
Yeah. So back to the album. 4th track, "See You at Your Funeral." This one doesn't wow me. It's an okay cut, but I guess my main note on this one is like severely bitter, and I keep using that term. It kind of reminds me of it has shades of If This Tour Doesn't Kill You. It's just like very like, holy, this guy is just pissed, or this guy just hates something so strongly.
Yeah, it kind of, by this song, it's starting to feel like the formula is there.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's another one of these songs. So that's probably why I don't enjoy this one as much as some of the other ones.
That's funny. I had that same note. I was like, this is where it gets a bit samey. And I was starting to worry. I was like, oh, is PUP going to go the way of like the Strokes, and each album is just going to be like more of the Strokes, like
it's just PUP.
Yeah, it's like just continuation of the same sound, but alas, Scorpion Hill comes in and changes it up a bit.
Starts with acoustic,
like a much slower, it's like I called it a bar ballad, like a like a dive bar with maybe like kind of musty smelling wooden seats, and some guy locals only, some guy strumming away in the corner.
The guy has a double shot of whiskey.
Yeah, whiskey. Yeah, that's perfect. I like this. Like, we're building a great scene here.
I think so too. But it's dynamic. It doesn't just stay there.
Yeah, it builds.
It's another great chorus. That guitar just volume increases, and the guitar kind of brings us in with it. And this is for me, this is one of their better songs lyrically on the album.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a interesting, cool story that he's telling.
That's so funny you say that. That was like exactly my notes. I was like, nice snippets of storytelling here and imagery, which not always what PUP songs like are known for, but this one definitely, like how we were building the scene of that bar. He builds scenes throughout his lyrics of like his sweat-soaked mattress in the corner of his room and things like that. And the imagery in the song is nice.
Yeah, not as good as our imagery, but close.
It's hard to attain. I mean, keep trying, PUP, but
yeah, we nailed it.
Yeah, we nailed it.
There's also an interesting thing in the lyrics. Let me know what you think about this. Mm-hmm. The lyrics are: asleep at the wheel, I was bursting apart like a flame from a spark, thinking, Jesus, that can't be for real. This can't be for real, sorry. Mm-hmm. And I kind of thought it was a Jesus take the wheel, like parody or satire.
A little bit, yeah. It's like that. I mean, when you're talking about the wheel and Jesus, it's almost impossible not to draw those connections.
Yeah. But I thought it was kind of funny whether that was intentional or not. It still made me chuckle.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't look at the lyrics that hard, but it's definitely funny now that you say it.
Yeah. I saw that and I was like, that's good. Mm-hmm. That's good. But and it made me think, why can we get a little bit more of that? Just
a little bit more.
It's a longer song. It's kind of the story is built out more.
Yeah,
it would be interesting.
It would be like maybe the next album might be more of a storytelling sort of.
I'm curious to see if that's the kind of direction that they go.
Yeah, if they get good feedback.
I'll get to my take later.
Okay.
At the end of this, but keep that in mind.
I'll keep it in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Next song, Closure, just another solid PUP song. Hits all the right beats. And still great imagery here. Not quite as like as great in number as Scorpion Hill, but I like the need something to keep these scabs from coming off. Like I need closure. It's a good metaphor there.
Yep. Yeah. Like throughout this album, they're great choruses. Mm-hmm. Every single one is just catchy, memorable. It's kind of like a fun sing along almost.
Yeah,
even though it can be a dark and morbid thought behind it.
Yeah, and that's like their bread and butter is these great hooks.
Yeah, and they truly, like on this album, they nailed it so much.
Yeah. And again, this next song is I texted you after I had taken notes on it, but Bloody Mary, Kate, and Ashley.
This is one of the best song titles of all time. Yeah, definitely the best song title on this album.
Changed my mind. Yeah,
it's incredible. Mm-hmm. It's so good.
I'm surprised that nobody's ever or maybe somebody has thought about this before, but I've never heard it. But it's so oh yeah, that's funny.
That's great. Mm-hmm. For the lyrics in this one, it's funny. It might be something in the way that they mastered the album, but some lyrics are easier to understand during the song than others.
Yeah.
And I found this one to be on the more difficult side, to be able to listen along and understand what he's saying. It's a little bit more distorted, and the vocals are a little more in the background.
Yeah.
Which is slightly disappointing, just because I noticed in the ones where the vocals are more in the forefront, less distorted, they're really great and enjoyable, and it kind of makes that pop element pop, if you will.
But yeah, with this one, you found it a bit hard to follow just without a lyric sheet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but not that it's a bad song. It's a good song.
Yeah.
It's just,
and it's the beat of it, the way it flows is different. Like the chorus is like a unique. I don't want to say time signature, but like the rhythm of it is different. This whole song has a different kind of, it mixes up the cadence of the songs up to this point, or the album up to this point.
Yeah, which is nice, because it did seem overall that this album is kind of along the same kind of rhythm and pattern, but which is normal for, if you're sticking within the genre of pop punk, it's going to be the same kind of 4/4 timing, similar BPM.
Yeah.
For a lot of songs, just because that's the nature of the genre. But yeah, you're right. It is nice every time they tweak something, and this song is a good example. It's much more enjoyable. But speaking of enjoyable, I would say the 8th song, Sibling Rivalry, is my favorite.
Oh, really?
I would say so, yeah. It's just, I think this was their second single.
Okay.
And it's just really kind of captures the essence of PUP for me. I know this was the one where it really caught my attention as, oh, this sounds like Weezer.
Okay.
But I think the guitar solo sounds like it. The chorus sounds like it. It hits the pop beats, but it really rocks. It's really,
it's
to me, a fantastic song.
It's a great song, and yeah, I'm looking at the lyrics right now, and it's another one that kind of it sets a scene, sets a has some good storytelling in this one too, about like a camping trip with your sibling, and maybe things don't always go as planned. But it's as a good...
suggested by the song title.
Yeah, exactly. If you couldn't figure that out for yourself, but yeah, it's a great song. I like it too.
Yeah, I just think it's a great chorus. Just everything nailed it, and I'm hooked throughout the entire song.
Yeah. The chorus is a great group vocals, kind of like every other line,
yeah.
And you didn't even notice, just running through the motions. It's it's like you were saying earlier, like a very a lot of sing-along-y kind of just great catchiness to it.
Yeah, it's kind of like campy, but but just fun.
Yeah, you can just imagine yourself being in a crowd of people and everybody singing along. Like it's very easy to do that with just how catchy these tunes are.
Yeah, and obviously we haven't seen them since this album came out, since it's so recent, but I have an inkling that this will be a staple of
a crowd pleaser.
Yes, very much a crowd pleaser. I think the song's gonna kill. But that's all I got for that one.
Okay, what do you? So I kind of checked out after this song. Like, maybe I need to re-listen to the last 3, but I guess they didn't quite capture me as much as the first 3/4 of the album does. Did you feel that way too?
That's fair. This one is especially weird. Full blown Meltdown is kind of getting into, it's like this metal type song.
It's harder.
Yeah, the bassist gets his turn at the intro to do a solo intro, which I haven't done to this point. So it's like, okay, yeah, sure, give this guy a chance. It's screaming. I mean, it just seems anti-thematic from everything else that they've done to this point, which is the same kind of lyrics, anxiety, depression, stories of difficult times, breakups, difficult relationships. But the music behind it has always been, fun, catchy. This it's great. And this is the first time that the music matches the lyrics, and it's disorienting for that reason.
Yeah, and maybe I need to give it a second shake. But yeah, it's kind of it's we were just saying move to the pop end of the spectrum. Well, this one goes in the opposite direction, moves into definitely the more heavier end of the spectrum. And for better or worse, you lose some of that coherency that comes in in all the preceding songs, but sometimes you also want to mix it up, and sometimes that can hit really well, sometimes that can be a miss, but you tried, it was a nice experiment. And maybe I should re-listen to this one. But you had a good point where it's like the title, Full Blown Meltdown, and kind of the lyrics. It as far as the album goes, this is like a full blown meltdown within the album. I mean, I should give it a second. I guess at this point, maybe like a fourth listen and be like, okay, now I see what they're trying to do here.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It kind of follows. I understand where they're coming from, but I thought Scorpion Hill was a better change of pace, do things a little differently.
Yeah.
Than this, kind of turn and twist on it.
Mm-hmm.
But
and maybe it's like not as catchy or something, but yeah, it doesn't grip me as much if I were like just to go and listen to like a song or two from this. I'm not sure I'd pick Full Blown Meltdown.
Yeah. But I feel then they in the 10th track, Bare Hands,
mm-hmm.
They kind of get back into the pop punk spectrum. It's back to this song could fit in that first 4 songs, and it would feel, I think, pretty natural.
Yeah, and another kind of like this, the guitar intro on this one is another sort of Weezer sounding passage, but yeah, they bring it back, and this is another just good pop song.
Yeah, the imagery in the lyrics, bare hands holding on to the wire. I thought that was pretty cool imagery.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I would change is the spelling of bare hands. It should be spelled B-A-R, and it should be bare hands. It would be better. I would like the song more.
It would be objectively better, honestly.
Would be. They missed the ball on that one.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm not gonna. Mm-hmm. I'm just gonna take 1.5 points from them. That's all.
Okay,
that's all.
It's a minor penalty.
Minor penalty.
But yeah,
2 minutes.
Looking at the lyrics, I mean, they are a Canadian band, if you didn't know. But
they're Canadian, yeah. So that was a great hockey reference by me.
Yeah, and also a lot of their lyrics have to do with like the Canadian cold, and like this is just another one. Like sibling rivalry had some like snowy cold imagery. This one's got some snowy cold imagery. So like a lot of their the motifs that run throughout, not even this album, but like a lot of their albums have to do with just like how cold it is, and sort of equate that to how bitter or how angsty you may feel.
Yeah, very appropriate for a bunch of Canadians. I'm not sorry about it.
You're not sorry about it?
I'm not sorry about it. Are you sorry? Don't be sorry.
No comment.
All right. I'll take my leave.
And the last track is a good closer.
It is.
City.
I was going to give the name of the song is City. I was kind of giving a 80s vibe. Did you feel that at all?
I'm like kind of I've got one headphone in listening to it right now. Maybe the drums a bit. It's just like boom.
I don't know. It's just kind of.
Yeah, I can hear a bit of the 80s vibe for sure.
Yeah. It's different. It's completely different than the other ones. It stands out for that reason.
Yeah, it's a bit more subdued, for sure. A bit sadder, a bit slower. Like the antithesis of Full Blown Meltdown. This one's like after the meltdown, and you're feeling sort of drained.
Yeah. No, I thought actually this one was a great way to end the album.
Exactly. And it's I'd say a bit more depressing than the rest. The other ones are a bit more like raging against something or being kind of upset about something or like pissed off, and this one's more just like I'm weighed down, I'm kind of like defeated almost in a way.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of nice. There's a better version of Full Blown Meltdown, which is taking the idea of anger and blowing it up. This is kind of taking the idea of just kind of sadness, depression, and blowing it up. But I think it's better executed.
And then like the very end, like the last like maybe 30 seconds comes like very bombastic and sort of similar to Scorpion Hill. It's like it's a really nice change, like the dynamic shift versus like the full blown meltdown that's just full speed ahead the whole time.
Yeah, 100% agree on that.
Yeah, that's like one of my favorite things in music is when there's like a very satisfying momentum change or like change from one movement to the other. And I think if that's executed well, it's very pleasing to me.
Yeah,
it's like the goosebump moment. Yeah, it's not easy to do at all, and sometimes it's very easy to kind of just this song is a little one dimensional. Kind of be like, well, it's still a good song, but yeah, if you can mix in kind of passages and movements within it, it really, I think one of like the masters of it within modern rock right now is Car Seat Headrest. He like is all over the place with how he mixes up his songs. He has freaking like 8-minute songs that are just like from take you on a trip essentially.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not easy to do, and I think PUP pulls it off pretty well in this song.
They do it in just like a 4, 3, or 5-minute song, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, exactly. So you
really feel it.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So
that's it. So overall, like I said before, every chorus is great. They nailed that aspect that have a couple gripes here and there, but every chorus is spot on. They also kind of tried some new things that I thought they were really successful in doing. This isn't just a standard pop punk album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they experimented a little bit and it paid off.
I agree. I like you were saying, a few hiccups here and there, but it's nothing like bad at all. And I would highly recommend this album. I would highly recommend PUP's back catalog, and for any future PUP releases, I think we sort of touched on it before, but I would at this point, like I'm looking forward to seeing like where do you go from here, because now you've gone poppier. We've got a taste of some maybe new storytelling, imagery. Like where I would love to see their next album like take an even further step beyond the formula.
Yeah, that was actually my take too, is that they should even push it further more towards the pop. I think that would be so interesting and fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I think the songs that they wrote that were dynamic and diverged from the punk pop formula were really great. They were excellent, and especially the ones that hit more what you would call the pop side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Because of the choruses are so great. They're great at writing these dynamic songs that go through transitions. I think they could do an entire album in that direction, and it would be amazing.
Yeah, and even if it didn't pan out, I would still give them props for trying.
Yeah, it would be. It's more than anything, it's an interesting thought experiment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, it's their art. It's whatever they want to make it, whatever they love and enjoy doing. If they put love into it, then I'll love it and enjoy it too. Mm-hmm. But I just think that would be so cool to see them try.
Yeah, for sure. So listen up, PUP. We love you. We love you. Try.
When you guys come on the pod, we'll discuss, the future.
Yeah,
we'll get all into that.
We'll get you guys and Matt Sharp in the same room. Have some.
Which you've been dying to do.
Yeah. Make some waffles. It'll be a great time. You get some beer, some mosaic, some pig.
We make great waffles too.
Yeah.
Great.
Trust us.
Trust in the waffles. All right, my little piggy.
All right, little piglets.
So thank you so much for listening, our piglet warriors.
Yeah. Get out there, slop, eat some slop. roll around.
Swap, buy this album on Bandcamp. Support PUP.
Yeah, Pups and Pigs.
See them live.
Mm-hmm.
Buy their merch.
Yeah, I can't wait to see them again. So, that's all I got. Matt, you got anything else?
No. FTMB over and out.
Over and out.